Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. We've made it through this week's Marvel books as well as a few DC books, and now it's time to wrap things up with this week's Batman books and, well, Dark Crisis as well. Kicking things off, we've got Batman vs. Robin number 3, where we left off after going to the House of Secrets and trying to figure out what exactly is going on with and learning what's been going on with Damian. It was revealed to us, the readers, that Alfred, who's been accompanying Batman, seemingly returned from the dead, is not who he seems to be. So, Batman and Alfred are heading to Lazarus Island on one of the older Bat planes. Meanwhile, Damian, wearing the Batman 666 suit, has armed his Robins, which would be Tim, Jason, Stephanie, and Dick. Tim is armed with the Cloak of Cagliostro, Jason, the Trident of Poseidon, Stephanie, the Coup Stick of Black Bison, and Dick, the Sword of Sin. So, Batman and Alfred arrive at Lazarus Island. Alfred insists upon going with Batman, but Batman says, no. Need you here so that I'll be distracted if you're with me. So you need to stay here. We don't want a situation like the Riddler's Labyrinth, right? And, well, of course, Alfred agrees. That's not what they want. Damian has his mother trussed up as a prisoner for Mother's soul, and Batman deals with the Robins. First, Tim, who doesn't just attack Bruce on a physical level, but also on a emotional level, stating that he's always been, ever since Damian arrived, Tim's been invisible to Bruce. But Tim's taken down. More magics are added to the reliquary. This time from the Queen of Fables. Though one of the mystical beings that they've Jubege, or Piggy to his frenemies, or Piggy to his frenemies, knows quite a bit more about Neja than the others that have been captured. And he tells Neja that Neja's son has finally arrived and can't wait to say hello. Stephanie and Jason basically work together. And during all this, Bruce is having to face some facts about how he has mistreated the Robins over the years, including the fact that he could have taken the time to train Stephanie better, but he didn't. Then Jason and Batman duked it out with Jason. Basically, after I came back, why didn't you come for me? Why didn't you try to help me? And again, Bruce is really, he should have. But at the same time, he was afraid to. He was terrified of the thought of that he basically turned one of his own Robins to basically become Joe Chill. But Jason and Stephanie are both taken down. Damian has a talk with Piggy, who asks Damian what he gets out of the whole thing, and also explains that that Neja used to be a hero, but he then just kind of the Lazarus juice that he he uses to make him immortal and ramp up his magic, well, it's corrosive to the soul. Damien asks if corruption can be reversed when Neja arrives and explains it's not corruption, it's clarity. Finally, we got our last fight. Batman versus Nightwing, with Alfred having made his way up this time. But, with Nightwing stating that he loved the spotlight and Bruce took him from it. But then Batman realizes all these self-doubts he's been dealing with are amplified by the sword that Nightwing wields. Azrael's sword of sin manifests guilt and doubts in an opponent's mind and magnifies them, weaponizes them. Alfred comes in closer, and then Bruce basically puts Alfred between him and Nightwing as Nightwing delivers what would be a killing blow, which is enough to give Nightwing a moment of clarity. But Batman explains that he knew that 3 minutes in, he knew that Alfred was a spy, and Alfred kept confirming this. One, Alfred despises Oolong Tea. He doesn't have a granddaughter, and there was no Riddler's Labyrinth. Explaining that this demon knew enough about Alfred's life to answer all of Batman's questions, not enough to contradict Batman when Alfred thought he was telling the truth. And Batman played along so as not to alert Neja. But a message is sent along. However, Alfred's still there to explain that to properly replicate Alfred, Neja required the tiniest echo of an actual soul, the faintest whisper. He had to crack the door to the afterlife to seize it. And Alfred basically tells Batman, hey, Damien believes you blame him for my death, but the truth is you blame yourself. Stop blaming yourself. And so the two, Alfred and Bruce, say goodbye, with Alfred adding that Bruce's parents send their love. And that is where the issue ends. Just ramping up. I have to admit, I was a little... Part of me did kind of have a moment of, oh yeah, they're just trying to, okay, so this is how they bring back Alfred, because eventually you got to get back to the status quo. But it's nice to be mistaken. Though, to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if, in defeating Neja, Batman gets Alfred back. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Batman Incorporated number 2. Where we left off, someone was killing Ghostmaker's mentors. And so Batman Incorporated had been split up throughout the globe to protect those who had not yet been killed. Though one of the Sky Spider figures that Ghostmaker's been the one doing the killing. How better to show that he's the best than to kill his mentors. Ghostmaker is trying to explain to her that he's not doing that. He's trying, but it's not working. She's not willing to listen. One of the dead teachers is having his computer looked over by El Gaucho and one of the others. Turns out that dude's been working on chemical weapons. When someone arrives wanting to know just why it is the Batman Incorporated work for Ghostmaker. The Ghostmaker's mentor in torture and interrogation is stopped from basically entombing two of the others. Knight and Knight and one of the others are in Moscow talking with Ghostmaker and Batman's mentor when it came to disguise. But it's explained that Ghostmaker was already well trained. Wingman, that's what it is. But Ghostmaker was already well trained in the art of deception when he and Bruce came to her, and that he killed the greatest marksman. With Wingman was knocked out with a sedative put into a drink, Knight didn't have to take the drink, but it appears that another ally has arrived to save Knight from being knocked out. In Dublin, evidence has come up to suggest that perhaps Ghostmaker did do the killings. However, it's pointed out that he couldn't have. Ghostmaker catches up with Sky Spider and explains that yes, he did kill one of his mentors. He did kill, not because only, and yes, it did have to do with the guy finding out that Ghostmaker was a psychopath. Basically, he was afraid, and so yeah, he was afraid he was going to go turn into a criminal. But Ghostmaker killed him in self-defense. Clown Hunter arrives, however, which does kind of dampen Sky Spider's decision to help. Flies off, and then a building explodes. Ghostmaker and Clown Hunter find her in the wreckage. Clown Hunter is told to find whoever did this while he takes Sky Spider to a hospital. However, Clown Hunter has been taken. And the issue ends. Clown Hunter coming to elsewhere in Shanghai. We learn the identity of the killer, potentially speaking. Phantom 1, Ghostmaker's sidekick. Well, until Ghostmaker killed him. And that is where the issue ends. Definitely dig this. I really like the fact that Ed Brisson is clearly making Batman the Knight definitive canon. Moving on to our next book, we've got Batman Urban Legends number 21. So, we've got The Wheelman of Gotham, featuring Batman and Robin, Renee Montoya and Survivor's Guilt, Arkham Academy Part 1, and Murder Club Part 2. So, The Wheelman of Gotham, I'm pretty sure this was a Part 2. There's a wheelman that's in demand in Gotham. Batman's gone after them initially and failed. So now, Batman and Robin are once again on their trail. But they're good. They're really good. And in fact, even caused Batman to wreck Batmobile. But cars are found burned out and abandoned. But nothing extraordinary about the car, though an ordinary car cannot race the Batmobile. And so perhaps it's the driver, who is hired by Two-Face to do a getaway. Kid Flash, Wallace West, shows up and helps Batman and Robin build a Batmobile that can tap into the Speed Force. And they go out. So they get the call. Once it turns out that the wheelman's back in, well, Batman and Robin go out in what Robin's calling the Bat Bolt. And Batman manages to get to the wheelman, pulls a gun on him and says, you fire that, basically you have a choice of the path you can go down. The story ends with her and Belle Rev receiving a Two-Face coin, one of Two-Face's coins, with her food. Next up, we've got survivor's guilt. Man's taken aside by a couple of officers and rather aggressively patted down when Renee Montoya shows up. Turns out that the man that's being harassed by the cops, well, a decade ago, Renee Montoya brought him in arrested for a joint. A joint. Not a large. Kid had a single joint on him, and he just got out for 10 years. Renee and Batwoman talk about things, and Renee talks about how how she was told one thing when entering the academy, but her first on the job was told something completely different. It was all about quotas, and her partner kind of saw the quota as an excuse to be a dick. This also, it turns out, led to Renee's drinking problem. But that's time when she decides she's going to take the commissioner position, and she finds the two cops that had pulled aside the guy she'd previously arrested, and one of them, the rookie of the two, didn't seem all that comfortable with what was going on. So she explains to him that she's taking the commissioner job and things are going to be different. I feel like the story was largely done just to because there has been some negative fan reaction from Commissioner Montoya. Largely in part due to how the end of Renee Montoya's arc as a member of the GCPD played out. Next up, our next story is Arkham Academy Part 1. Kid gets picked up by the GCPD, taken to Arkham, given a costume to wear. It's explained that among the other inmates, you've got a guy who calls himself Kitten, aka Catboy, aka the Feline Phenom, sidekick to Catwoman herself. Yeah, no, he's not. The new arrival, apparently his dad, a supervillain named Wrath, had expendable sidekicks he called Scorn, which is what he was dressed up as. The rest of the kids, we've got Deathtrap, who's described as looking like a sugar skull cyborg. Enigma, who is apparently the daughter of the Riddler, though was abused for being Riddler apparently tried to kill her for not being as smart as him. Then there's Wannabe, who's just trying to find her, who wants to be a villain, and just needs to find her motif. The Noise, who constantly states that Catboy is just a pretender. But they had their first day of class, where the whole thing is explained as it's supposed to be a means of keeping or preventing the creation of additional villains in Gotham. And the first person that's going to talk to them about what it's like to be a supervillain is Killer Croc. Finally, we have the Murder Club, Part 2, where we began. Batman was investigating a murder club in Gotham, as well as a few other crimes. He got a call to come back to Wayne Manor, however, where his parents were alive and well and waiting on him, looking just as they did the night that they were killed. Alfred says that they clearly are who they claim to be. Nightwing and Damian are already waiting, and Bruce changes as well, discussing things, and Bruce has got other things to take care of. Damian, first off, Alfred gets the teacups from Thomas and Martha to do a proper DNA cross-reference. Batman has gone to investigate a fire. Managed to save a few people within, but the person who had set the place ablaze attacks Batman, and with her dying breath manages to, at least to a degree, give Batman a clue about the murder club, saying Star's Murder Club. What a joke. Damian then goes to speak to his grandparents, telling Thomas and Martha a few things about Bruce. Not that he's Batman or anything, but the person who he is. However, he's called back to the cave, and turns out there's a radioactive isotope, and so Batman's informed of this. It appears time travel is to blame. And Bruce has to go to Crime Alley. He sees someone who doesn't belong and takes him out. Turns out John Starr, the Time Commander. This part of the story ends with Thomas and Martha finding the entrance to the Batcave, going in and wondering just what the hell Bruce has become. An interesting motif. We in Flashpoint, there was the whole thing of Barry Allen explaining to Thomas Wayne, Batman of the Flashpoint Earth, that in the way reality is supposed to be, Thomas Wayne died, Bruce Wayne survived, and Bruce became Batman. And so Thomas had, when Barry refixed reality, he sent a letter he wrote a letter and had Barry deliver it to Bruce, basically saying, don't go down the path I've gone down. Okay, it's not worth it. So it's neat. It is kind of cool seeing the reactions of various Thomas Waynes to Bruce being Batman. Moving on to our next book, though, we've got Batgirls number 12. Where we left off, it seems the Batgirls had found the home of the Hill Ripper, and also found the Riddler there. So they fight off the Riddler, though Riddler's injured Killer Moth. Cass takes his wings and get into a hospital, and goes to save Grace O'Halloran. He's just finished her episode. But Babs calls up her contact with the GCPD, giving him a place to be to catch the Hill Ripper. The Hill Ripper goes after Grace, seemingly cuts her. I'm not sure if it's not clear by the end if she loses her eye, but she does have a cut now in her on her right eye. Um, the GCPD officer shows up. There's a bit of a standoff, while Stephanie continues her fight with Riddler, who's taunting her. Riddler does escape. Batgirl arrives to save Grace, and an ambulance is called for Killer Moth and Grace and the Hill Ripper. Cass has to kind of fall back on her her previous training, though, to take down the Ripper, which she does, and she manages to do so, and then kind of put all that trauma behind her. Officer Brooks is decorated is praised as a hero by Commissioner Montoya, and Grace is working on her already written the script for her next podcast episode. Meanwhile, Barb is enjoying a day off, as are the rest, as are Cass and Steph. Steph is worried about what Riddler said, which kind of hinted that maybe her father isn't dead after all. But Cass makes it clear that she's there for Steph if anything happens. However, elsewhere, Jervis Steph is talking to the therapist about reuniting a father and daughter before he beats the therapist's head in with a bust of Sigmund Freud. And that is where the issue ends, and it seems like as though this will be continued in that arc will be continued in the annual. I'm assuming comes out soon. Moving on to our next book, we've got I Am Batman number 15. Where we left off, it seemed that Batman had beaten Detective Whitaker to death. Detective Chubb tells him there's only one thing he can do and gives him her gun, trying to talk him into finishing things. But his head clears and he didn't attack Whitaker. Chubb didn't give him her gun either. Something's wrong. He almost gets hit by a car as his bike does. The father of the son of the man he committed hit and run against shows up and hands Jason a knife. Only it turns out that it's Sinestro, who's had his powers amped up by being part of Deathstroke's Dark Army. But Jace goes to take care of his injuries and get some intel on Sinestro on how to take him down. But he does point out that, what's come up is kind of true. He does run, ran from Gotham, the hit and run. And when Superman said, hey, Superman needs a Batman, so he said, nah, I don't deal with this crisis stuff. But Sinestro is being... Pariah is insisting that Sinestro stop toying with Batman and just kill him. He appears initially as classic Batman, but Jason's a bit more ready for him this time. However, Sinestro uses Hadia and say, hey, whom Jace has always loved but always been too afraid to say anything to. But Sinestro makes a second yellow ring and gives it to Jace. You know, so you can see his fears. But Jace puts it on and declares that Sinestro fucked up, and basically makes a yellow contract around his glove and beats the holy hell out of Sinestro. And Pariah seemingly kills Sinestro for his failure. And so Batman, before heading back to base, well, he's got to head to the Hall of Justice. He's going to help. That is where the issue ends. And yes, it does. We do pick up on that in our last book for the week, Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, number 6. So, Pariah's Dark Armies attack the Hall of Justice, and not just Deathstroke's society and their newest recruits from the Legion of Doom, but also the heavy hitters. Mr. Terrific is trying to inform the Little Green Lanterns of what's going on, but there's interference. Black Lantern on Riot suddenly shoots out a ton of shadow demons, and Pariah talks about what he's been through, how the darkness found him, and he was no longer alone. But the League is able to figure out how to return to Earth, but it's not a definite. But Green Arrow's one says, "Hey, I'm the world's greatest marksman. Even I know I can miss. If there's a chance, we gotta try." But battle continues outside the Hall of Justice, and Batman shows up. And apparently he's brought help in the form of the Ray, Nubia, Steel, Connor Hawk, Blue Beetle, and Miss Martian. Some of them, as well as Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, go after Pariah and are seemingly sent to each their own world. Batman helps get the antimatter machine that Pariah constructed repaired, while Superman deals with some of the heavy hitters from the Dark Army. Yara Flor tries to use her lasso to to make Pariah see the truth that the darkness isn't talking to him. It's all his psychosis, basically. But the antimatter weapons fixed and turned on, and Pariah's trapped within it, and he dissipates. But it's explained that just because he's no longer around, just because the power he was exerting over the Dark Army is no longer around, it's going to take a minute for it to dissipate. Doomsday comes after Superman when Superman and the rest of the Justice League arrive, and Superman then team up and take out Doomsday. Also arriving alongside Superman and the Justice League is the Green Lantern Corps. But interestingly enough, Green Arrow isn't with them. As this is pointed out when Roy and Dinah are reunited, and Roy asks, "Where's Oliver?" But comes down to Deathstroke has decided that he took a contract, and he's not done until all of them are dead. That is where the issue ends. Dark Crisis, I've had my issues with it. It's not perfect. It's good. I'm liking it. And that is going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.